This is an old saying, like a fable. And it recently made an occurrence when the president of China used it towards our current president. But this is not a Chinese proverb, according to most experts. Now, the Chinese have many, many, many proverbs, but they took something that's not necessarily a Chinese proverb and told an American president this. You might be familiar with it, or you might have heard about this, but not much was said after. Those who play around with fire will perish by it. That's what the Chinese told the Americans. And you know, it's an ancient proverb. I don't know who really said it first. This I don't know. But I know it's from the ancients. And it has to be ancient wisdom because it's true. It holds up when they first said it to this very second. But I don't think it goes like perish. I think it was those who play around with fire get burned by it. And you do get burned by fire. So this was ancient wisdom. More than likely when they first discovered fire was harmful. You know, think about that. Why do you have to tell grown adults don't play with fire? You might get burned. Because you have a lot of adults that are children in nature. And they don't know any better. So they go and play around the fire. And the other reasonable adults in the room have to tell them, no, don't do that. You might burn yourself. Yeah, you might burn yourself. You know, everybody is talking about the protests in China. The crackdown. But that might not be too far off from us either. In a moment. Americans are acting like everything is honky-dory. Or pretending as though everything is honky-dory. We saw our own nation's Capitol building get stormed. Not all that long ago. And people were trying to, as much as possible, sweep it under the rug. Act as though it was no big deal. But in 240 years, we've never seen it before. So how can something that occurred once and never has happened before or prior to be no big deal? See, this is where we get into trouble. We want to talk and focus on other people's problems, but not on our own seriously. And that can lead to greater problems because when you don't address a problem, the problem doesn't simply go away. It lingers and festers. And boy, has the problem festered in this country. Now, let's get back to this proverb. Those who play with fire will perish by it. Let's think about the art of playing with fire. Why would anybody want to do it? Well, you could be headstrong and hubris and think that you could do something that you really can't do. We know a lot of Americans suffer from this disorder, especially men. How many men do you see on social media saying they're ready for a civil war? Quite a number, right? I don't think all of that is bot generated. Some of that is men. Some of it is bots. Some of it is men. Have you looked at Americans? What war do you think they can fight? How long were they in Afghanistan? 20 years, right? 2 decades. And we didn't win that war by all accounts. Iraq. We had to leave, right? So now Americans are going to fight other Americans. You see what I mean? By cheering on what's happening in China, that could be a prelude of what's to come here. So you never want to wish ill, even on your adversary, because that could circle back to you. That's why I said December, I really think is about all of that hate people are putting on a platter. It's going to get returned to sender in December. Oh yes. I'm doing something I've never done before. I'm going to go out and I'm going to find a black candle. And I'm going to do a couple of affirmations. The first one is to put negative energy in realignment. It's too negative right now. It needs to be put in realignment. So I'm going to do a simple affirmation. All the haters out there in American society, be on notice. I'm going to say, put all of the hate they have for others, return it to the sender. Now that's powerful. So if you're a hater and you know it, it's going to come back to you. Oh yeah, in December it's going to come back. I'm thinking about doing this on the 9th of December. 12/9/22. Any guesses why? Somebody will know. Somebody knows numerology, right? 12/9/22. Join me for lighting a black candle and returning hate back to the sender. That's the first affirmation. Now we're going to do a positive one too. Everyone who's done good, gratitude go to them. See, these are simple affirmations. Haters, you get your hate back. Those who've done good, you get gratitude. These are simple affirmations. You know, they say candle magic is dark voodoo magic. So I'm of the devil. Well, seeing as I've been called the devil, I'm of the devil, I guess. So I'm only practicing dark magic. The devil's magic, I guess. If you agree with him. This is just an affirmation. People do daily affirmations every day. I'm just going to do it with a black candle. And I'm not wishing ill on any individual person. I want to make that clear. I don't know who the haters are. Only the haters know who the haters are. I know there's a lot of people that are full of hate though. And I don't think they're going to be able to change by the 9th of December. This is going to catch a lot of people off guard because I'm thinking about posting this video on the actual day of that December. So they'll have no way of knowing in advance. I might give them a day's notice, maybe 3. We'll see how generous I'm feeling. But right now, I'm not feeling generous at all towards the haters. It's really out of alignment, especially in America. Just a nation full of haters, bullies, haters, criminals. And I think it's going to work instantaneously this time. You know, sometimes when you do that kind of stuff, it doesn't work, or it takes a long time. But December is the last month of this year, and perhaps the last month of this entire republic. So it might work instantaneously. Like the actual second after I get done doing it, it might start working. You might be planning something horrible, and whilst you're planning it, you have a heart attack. I'm talking about like that kind of instantaneous. See, this has been long in the making. Folks know who they have been, who've been problematic. I'm talking about for a long time they've been problematic. And people have been covering up their bullshit for them. They're not going to like what they give back, I'm telling you. A lot of haters are not going to like it. They're going to be like, this isn't for me. No, not me. No, but it really is for you. So, by some miracle way, you better start being kind and generous and nice. I know for some of you that's impossible. I know. You're just too far gone, some of you. Such a shame. Anyway, fire. Not playing with it. Perishing by it. Why would some people want to play with fire? You say. Well, fire is very powerful. And the person that wields fire usually thinks they're powerful. And they might be. You never know. But everything is symbiotic of something else. See, a lot of people don't understand that until their supply isn't in the store. Then you realize you have a supply chain, right? When the thing you want, you can't get. Then you realize that somebody else has to make whatever you do possible. This is the thing conservatives don't understand. They don't ever think that the public goods have to be replenished. The commons, as they call it, they never want to fund it. You look at infrastructure, and they all voted against the infrastructure bill. Does anybody want to ride on bad roads? Absolutely not. So it takes money to repair them, right? People, when they go to the airport, do you want to wait 2 hours to board your plane? It takes money to add and expand. But they never want to provide for the commons. And then they blame others for the disaster of not having anything. We all rely on something. And over these last 2 years, we've come to find out that supply chains are really important. Think about this. Folks are going off because they don't have a cigar in a convenience store. Okay, you say that's Mao, and that's one extreme case. What happens if you can't get any more medicine? I mean, you don't have any more medicine, period. Not just certain types of medicine, no medicine. Then what happens? Then you got real problems, right? Real serious problems, right? Well, does anybody know that China supplies 90% or more of our medications? Why would we want to piss off someone that supplies that much of our medication? Who would do such a dumb thing? Folks that play around with fire. Those type of people would do such a thing. You know, I have no problem with competition. I really don't. I don't think the Chinese do either. Because they're sort of kind of thinking they can win the competition. I'm not so sure about that. It's not like America doesn't have certain things that they can use to their advantage. But we stay stuck in stupid arguments. And we seldom see our advantages when they appear. Folks don't have to be confrontational. You can be competitive without being physical. That's for sure. And in this competition, you really don't know who would win. Look, you have things that are external to both parties' control. Nobody can control a virus. However, you can choose to operate different ways to combat the virus. Now, think about this. China has chosen both times to lock down. We hesitated and then had a mild lockdown. And we're definitely not locking down this time again. That's out of the question. So they say, at least for now. We're safe for now. Or are we? See, everybody says the lockdown caused the harm. Did it now? I'm sure it did cause a lot of harm, the lockdown. But America, you really didn't have a lockdown. If I'm being completely honest, America never locked down. You did a shutdown, which is not a lockdown. We gotta get the correct terminology, America. Because everybody knows what the correct terminology is. America did a shutdown. This is true. But not a lockdown. This is also true. What's the difference? A lockdown means you cannot move. A shutdown means that you just stop moving certain things. Now, China tried to do a reopening. And one can argue that the reason why they're going through a higher infection rate is because they did try to reopen. They've had zero COVID policies since the very beginning. And as soon as they tried to reopen, meaning people take off their masks, go back to not socially distancing, go back to crowded venues, as soon as they tried to do that again, they've had a rash of infections. Is that not the case? Is that not why they're locking down? Now, Americans, we did a shutdown. Meaning we shut down venues where there were a lot of people. Concerts, movie theaters, corporate offices, where a lot of people would congregate. Mostly the workplace. You know, every now and then people go outside to something, like a sporting event. And those were shut down. So it was no large venues you could go to in America. And still we had a spike and lost the most citizens in the virus. The initial wave of the virus. I want to make that clear. Initial wave. People really forget how pandemics go. They come in waves. Generally, we did pretty good as a species the first wave. Sometimes the first wave gets a lot of people. It didn't really get a lot of people the first wave. But where we weren't good was with continuing on, doing what we were doing. No, people wanted to get back to things the way they were. Now, I understand why people didn't like the restrictions. I really do. But then people don't like being sick either. So it's kind of like a catch-22. It's like people don't like the restrictions. I get it. People don't like being sick. I get it. But the third part, the in-between part, where you can do the restrictions and still not get sick, I don't get why people don't like that. That's the tricky part. That's the part that doesn't make very much sense. That would be the part that, well, the virus would have difficulty breaching. But see, so many people are not willing to do that. So in all honesty, what you've seen is the virus continues to mutate, which is what viruses do. They mutate. They want to find a new host so they can continue to live. Viruses, for those of you who never went to a science class, is a living bacteria. It needs a host in order for it to survive. It's a virus. It wants to live too. It's an invisible enemy. Remember, America said at the very beginning, our war is with the virus. But then the war morphed into the virus and the citizenry. And now it's morphed into the virus, the citizenry, and the ethnicity. The sexual orientation, your gender, your religion. So this virus keeps mutating, right? It keeps changing. That's what viruses do. They mutate. They want to live. And it's looking like we're slow to adapt to it. That's what it's looking like. We're slow. Every time we take one step forward, a nitwit comes along and says we should step backwards too. I mean, we can listen to the nitwit, but then they don't really have a solution outside of we just shouldn't do it. The other people say, okay, we shouldn't do it, but then what? And then that's when the person doesn't have an answer. I'm like, if you don't do it, then what? Because it's not like we haven't tried that. The people who didn't want to wear masks and didn't want to socially distance and thought COVID was a joke, didn't a lot of them catch the virus and succumb to the virus in 2020, 2021, 2022, to this very day? I think, by all accounts, we're still losing about 40 Americans a day from the virus. Now that's way down. So people say, that's not a big deal. I'll have some clown say, maybe like 500 people die a day in car accidents. That's not true. That's why I said I'll have some clown say that. Whilst 40 people dying a day of COVID is not really a large number, that number does a disservice to what COVID is. See, it masks the virus because people look at the death rate. They don't look at how many people are getting sick. They don't look at how many people are not recovering, having side effects. They don't look at the mental health that's linked behind those side effects. They don't look at the isolation. They only look at the physical restrictions, not the mental, not the emotional, not even the physical. They're like, everybody, you have to go back into the office now. Have they done a survey and asked everybody, can they physically go back into the office? See, if you're going to ask somebody to do something, you should check in and see if they can physically do it or not. Maybe they don't want to tell you how bad long COVID is. Because, well, they want you to be carefree and reckless and irresponsible. They gotta make money. You know, I don't think you have to shut down the sporting events. But you might have to repurpose the stadiums and how they work. You might have to distance people from each other more. You might have to have some type of bubble or containment shield that people have to wear. You might have to have people distance when they're in line to the bathroom. Hell, they should have remodeled the air conditioners for the schools. Upgraded the HVACs in the classrooms. You know, a lot of teachers don't want to go back into the classroom because they don't feel safe. After Uvalde, can you blame them? After Parkland, can you blame them? They're trying to scratch their head and act like they don't know why there's a teacher shortage. People are pulling out their kids from public school, even the private schools. They're seeing a lack of enrollment too. They're just talking about the public. Nobody wants to go to school. Nobody wants to go to the grocery store. Nobody wants to go anywhere because they don't feel safe. But you're open, right? See, they don't have 600 mass shootings in China at the moment. But people are protesting and they're upset about the restrictions. We have 600 mass shootings and counting for the third year in a row. Everybody's scared to even protest that because you might get shot at the protest. You know, like Rittenhouse did. For those of you who aren't familiar, he went to a BLM protest. People he politically disagreed with, and used an AR-15 murdering 2 people. And conservative white American Christians said it was self-defense. But we know they're liars, right? They've been justifying lynching and murder since the beginning. Any lynching in this country that ever happened, they said it was self-defense. And an all-white jury always acquitted them. You know, black people weren't allowed to be on the jury. So when white people lynched, they were always acquitted. They want to go back to 1776, have you heard? Restoration movement. They want to go back to the Bible. They want to make America great again. But they don't want to tell you what that really truly incorporates and means. They never want to do that. I wonder why. Oh no, I don't have to wonder. I know why. So we're open with 600 mass shootings. China is closed and they have protests. They also have 1.4 billion people. About 5 times the size of the United States in terms of population. Now, with that many people, if 2 million people are protesting, 2 million is a lot. But of 1.4 billion, hey, 1 million people got on your mall in the 1960s America and said they wanted civil rights. Remember? The March on Washington. Dr. King's famous I Have a Dream speech. 1 million people were on the National Mall saying they're tired of being treated like less than humans. 3/5 of a being. And 1 million people got on the mall. And the Americans still didn't do shit. It wasn't until after mass assassination after assassination did they do something, right? Am I getting something wrong here? So now they're talking about protests in China like it's a big deal. But when there were protests in 2020 here in the States about racial injustice by their state, by their government, oh, they were anarchists and socialists. They were Marxists. Well, how do you know these are not misfits in China? Anti-government radicals, President Xi haters, anti-communists, religious zealots. That's what the Chinese people are calling these people. Hey, it might be true. You never know. But see, that's what I mean. Gloating. The Chinese never gloated about our protests in this country. I'm certain they probably wanted the protesters to succeed. But they never intervened and commentated on such a thing. But leave it to the Americans not to return the favor. I look at the news and we're commenting on China and the protests. I said, oh no, they're not doing that, are they? And that's exactly what they're doing. You know, though, the Chinese do show the picture of the gallows and nooses hanging in the Capitol on January 6th. When the Americans go over to China and have high-level negotiation, and they try to tell the Chinese what to do, they just show them the picture. So far, nobody has erected a noose or a gallows near the president's residence. No Chinese citizen has done such a thing in their republic. I'll be the first to report if it happens. That'll definitely be newsworthy. I'm definitely going to report that if that happens. But it happened here already, right? And see, that's why that fable is so important. Those who play with fire perish by it. We shouldn't do that. It would be my recommendation never to play with fire. Now, I know a lot of people in America don't want to hear good advice. So here's the game Americans are playing now. Whatever a lot of us say, they're doing the exact opposite. I said, okay, cool beans. I'm going to continue to give good advice. And if they do the opposite of good advice, well, sit back, everybody else, and look at what the result of that is going to be. The Americans tend to think it's going to be beneficial. Have you ever had a friend that gave you good advice and you just did the exact opposite? Who does this? Americans. I kind of like this game where I give good advice and they do the opposite. Because I know how that's going to turn out. We all do. We all do. Definitely. We definitely know how that's going to turn out. You're going to start seeing it in December. Right away. I predict December 1st. First day of December, you're going to start seeing. You're already seeing it now. But you ain't seen nothing yet till you see December. Somebody said, will they start accepting good advice? Hell no. These are some stubborn bitches. These are some hard-headed nitwit bitches. Start accepting. A better phrasing of that is, shouldn't they have already been accepting? You ever heard of never looking a gift horse in the mouth? I don't know who does the shit that we do. I think it's only a we do it thing. Everybody else is listening. The Americans are censoring. Everyone else is listening. They're censoring. And when everybody else is listening and seeing that it's beneficial, they're doing the exact opposite of what we're doing, which is the thing that's not beneficial. So when they said China was locking down, I didn't even say lock down. And I still don't know if that's the best answer. But something's got to be better than this. I mean, at this point, it's pure anarchy out there. Everybody knows it. Nobody wants to say it. Pure savagery. What, President Xi is supposed to put up with that in China? Why? Why, ask yourself, why should someone, a leader, put up with misfits? America makes misfits their leaders. But other countries, they really have to be thoughtful about those kind of things. Remember, they're trying to grow and surpass. Why Why would anybody put up with misfits in their country? You saw that on January 6th. They let all of those misfits go back home. No, 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 no. You know, if I had been president, and they stormed the United States Capitol building whilst I'm president, they would have never stormed another building ever again. See, when it's time to be tough, stern, and resolute, Americans kind of buckle. So we already see that, okay. If I see it, adversaries and nemesis see it too. Those folks should have been handled. They should have been on the first flight to Beijing. Hey, you want to fight your nemesis? Here you go. Just plop them in Beijing. Here's our troublemakers in our country. You do what you will with them in China. Yeah, I would have sent all of those January 6th insurrectionists to China. Let them go before a Chinese court and testify to what they did in America. I wonder what the Chinese courts would have done to them. We'll never know. You know, they went on vacation afterwards. Vacation. After storming the Capitol. Like it was nothing. No accountability or responsibility. Lawlessness. Complete lawlessness. Hundreds of thousands of Americans acting lawless. You saw the QAnon shaman, right? With the bullhorns. Screaming in the Capitol at the top of his lungs. They were doing chants and incarnation. Like they were Vikings or something. I said, these people are sick as shit. Y'all know who that was, right? In the Capitol. Oh, they haven't told y'all who that was in the Capitol yet. See, everybody knows this shit but Americans. We're always the last to know everything. We're going to be the last to probably lock down again, too. Oh, yeah. We're going to stay open. They're open now, and nobody wants to go. Who wants to go out there? Who wants to come here? Nobody's coming here. Look, we might as well be on lockdown. Nobody is flying into America. And when I say nobody, nobody. Usually a lot of Europeans come for the holidays to America. Come to ski. Come to shop at Tiffany's and Company. They spend money at the Ritz-Carlton hotels. They say the hotels are empty. No reservations. Nobody wants to come here. We're open though. Half of the time, have you been to a place late? They should be open, but they're closed. And they have a sign on the door that says, closed due to short staffing. Has anybody seen that? Interesting phenomenon, right? They're open, but they're closed. Because they can't even find enough workers. But we're open, right? See, and I said this earlier, what's necessary is difficult. But nobody said what's necessary was easy. What do you all think that lockdown is about in China? I asked that in another video, but I'm going to ask it this time. And I'm going to try to elaborate on it. I think it's about the virus. I do. I really do. I think the virus is scaring the hell out of Chinese people. And I think with fear comes restriction. That's what I think. Some people are like, oh, they're doing this on purpose to stick it to America. No. You know, I'm good at reading body language and emotions. And the Chinese are really hard to read their body language, but I can do it. I don't get that this is to spite America. Because this is hurting them too. They're not benefiting by this. Politics is all about who benefits and who loses. China's economy is toileting because of this. So why would you want to harm your own economy? For those of you who think this is a Chinese conspiracy, that doesn't make too much sense now, does it? And one thing I do know about President Xi is he really cares about the Chinese people. Really. He's talked about this century being a Chinese century. So why would he want to set his people back? He loves China so much he wants Taiwan to be a part of it. You think Taiwanese don't see this shutdown and the protests and say, thank goodness we're not Chinese. This doesn't even benefit that outcome and goal. And that's priority number one for President Xi, to reunify Taiwan with China. Every Taiwanese person says, thank goodness I'm not Chinese at this person. So it cannot be out of spite, no. This is not out of fear. There was a very interesting proverb that the ancients used to say. And this was during difficult times. Very difficult times. You would lose family member after family member after family member to famine, sickness, war, ecological destruction. And the elders used to always say, persistence is victory. Now, the British went. The story goes like this. The British went to the Chinese Empire. And they really enjoyed the tea. Because the Chinese used to put milk in the tea and coffee. It was unheard of to put milk in coffee and tea. Everybody just drank it dark and black. And the British said, this is incredible. We love the taste of this. Milk and tea and coffee. Yeah, that's an old story. Anyway, the British were really fond of the Chinese empires. And they knew they couldn't win or beat them out and out, right? But the British had something that their people enjoyed. Their people, when they did it, they felt happy, carefree. Opium. Now, opium is a unique drug. Very unique. It makes you feel relaxed. When you're stressed out, you need to feel relaxed. Opium does this. The ancients used to do a lot of opium. But life was simple. You tilled the land. You grew, you harvest. You provided food. And you did that day in and day out until you died. It was simplistic. The simple life. You were on the land. And you did what you wanted on your land. Until other people came who wanted to invade and take it. If we don't have certain things, like cigars in stores, people are going to freak out. Now, what if you don't have any medicine in the store? And you can't find it anywhere? No medication. What do you think the reaction to that's going to be? That's not going to be a good thing. We're already seeing a lack of food. We should have enough food, but yet people are going hungry on our streets because of the prices. They're sky high. And things are not coming down. It costs more to ship things. Fewer things are getting opened up and getting onto the trucks because there's fewer people working. And now they're talking about a rail strike. That doesn't sound good. Because we know the rails transport the vast majority of all of our supplies. Look, Congress should do whatever those rail workers want them to do. They're not essential, they're vital. They're essentially vital workers. So whatever they want, they should get for the holidays. See, this is where you have to use common sense in a supply chain already messed up. Why would you want to piss off the few people left to still do the job? So I hope that's averted in December, but it's no guarantee. It's no guarantee. And if it's not, that means that there's going to be fewer things. Already there's few things, but that means it's going to be barely nothing. If anything, kind of situation. You might have some medication, but it won't be a lot. And it'll be like that everywhere. It's already starting to look like that everywhere. Oh yeah, I had a couple of sources reach out. They're like, hey, what's up with the medication? I said, I don't know, tell me what's happening. They say everywhere we go, is shortages of that shit. Is somebody hoarding it? I said, you know, it's just like Americans to hoard things. They did it with the hand sanitizer. They did it with the bleach, the batteries, the toilet paper. So I started doing some sleuthing. You know, I was an avid investigator and still am. One of the best. Usually folks contact me when they need a real mystery to be solved. I'm not talking about like a murder or any of that shit. Stuff like this. A thorough investigation. Where is the medication? Stuff that ABC News and NBC News should be doing. Somebody please at them. Where is the medication investigation? So they contact me. Now I have to accept or not accept some of these investigations. There's so many going on that I'm not going to overwork myself with all of this nonsense. Because I think some of these investigations in America can be easily solved. We can look to the usual suspects. Are these profiteers, the pharmaceutical companies, doing this to us? They've done other bullshit, so we don't put it past them, is what I'm saying. I'm not accusing anyone of doing it yet. But I'm saying if there were ever ratchet people on this planet who would do some shit to us like this, it would be them. So you're going to have a lot of people mad at you. And it might not be you. So you better be part of this investigation and assist. If need be. I might not need you bums. But I might need you bums. So clear your schedules and calendars. Because we should really have an investigation of this. Where is the medication? Everybody I'm talking to, and I'm talking West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, South, Great Plains. They're all saying everywhere I go, there's no medication. I got people traveling from state to state saying the same thing. In Iowa, they barely have any medication. South Carolina, they barely have it. Washington, we barely have it. See, if it was one place, I would say this is not a big deal. If it was one state, not a big deal. If it was regional, big deal, but still solvable. This is countrywide. Where is the medication? Now, I told you 90% of our medication comes from China. You know those fuckers are not going to tell you if something bad has happened. They'll let you find out on your own. I'm not like that. This investigation started a while ago. We went a lot of different places. They were all saying the same thing. We don't have any medication either. We're running low. I said, contact your suppliers. What are they saying? They're running low. I said, somebody's holding out on somebody. They said, ooh, how long have we known each other? I said, a long time. I know everybody. That's what they told me, Purple. I know everybody. And nobody thinks they're holding out on anybody. I said, are you for real? This is a real shortage then. They said, yeah. Nobody's got anything. They're low on medication in China. And China is our supplier. Whatever they have there, they're going to use for their people. Now we've got to get up and running and make some medication, Americans. This should be priority number one, to get medication from anywhere that we can get it from. Just like the baby formula. We had to get it from Europe. Europe is running a little bit low too. But some of the medications in Europe are not approved for America, and vice versa. We might have to change those standards just like we did with the baby food. It's highly possible and highly probable. Hopefully this gets resolved, because right now it's not looking good. That's a huge problem. Huge. If we're out of medication, we're definitely going to have to lock down America. Let me repeat that. If we're out of medication, we are definitely going to have to lock down. Maybe China is locking down because they know there's a shortage. Maybe they're doing it because it's necessary. America is already a frightening place, and you have medication. What type of hellscape do you think is going to be without medication? Ye said he's not on his medication, and we all went, we know. We can clearly tell. The dude at SeaTac who was doing the Nazi salute and screaming, didn't it look like he needed to take his medication that day? Like he was off his meds? Clearly out of his mind. We're definitely going to have to lock down if we don't have medication. You can't run an insane asylum with no medication. China is not an insane asylum, and they're locking down because they're scared. We're an insane asylum. Running low on medication. Yeah, we're gonna lock down. We'll lock down for sure, I'm telling you. And they're gonna make sure they lock you down. They're gonna have to strap a lot of people down. Did you see the individual that got on the plane and held a razor to the woman's neck? No, this didn't happen in 2020. It just happened the other day. He held a razor blade to a woman's neck on board a flight. They had to subdue and get him off the plane. Yeah, they're going to maybe have to lock down. See, can you blame a country for not wanting to be bothered with that? Everybody talks about the restrictions, but nobody talks about the alternative, which is just letting people do whatever they want to do. That's America right now. Oh, you don't have any restrictions. You're free to go. Are people making good choices, though? And it's not just a few people, is it? It's a lot of people making horrible choices. 600 mass shootings in 1 year. For the 3rd straight year. Every year that the virus has been on this planet, 600 mass shootings in America. Nobody want to talk about the correlation there? It's a bipartisan issue because the first year was under Trump. 600 mass shootings under Donald Trump. It's continued on under President Biden. So nobody ever wants to talk about the alternative. They only want to talk about the thing they have a problem with and what resulted of that. But what resulted of doing it their way as well? You know, I heard one person say we shouldn't have done a lockdown. We should have done forced containment. Now, forced containment sounds a lot more insidious, doesn't it? But basically, he said that the only people that really needed to lock down were the elderly. those with pre-existing conditions. But if you were young, you could still go about your daily life. And if you were elderly and you were forced mitigation, people would have done good for you and they would have brought you food. This was an American scientist saying this crazy shit. I said, did you see the way people acted right at the onset of the virus, wanting to kidnap a governor of an entire state and do a live stream violating her body? Men wanted to kidnap a female governor and live stream it, blow up bridges and police stations. And this is what you're talking about? People being kind and bringing elderly people food? I said, this man is an American, right? Yes. I said, has he lost his mind? He knows Americans wouldn't do that. First off, young people are not going to not go around certain people because of their age. People have family members of mixed age and various age. The elderly were the main people who didn't want to wear a mask. At the onset of this, most young people were generous and wore masks. Before the hip, cool Nazis came along and told them that that's communism. Being thoughtful of people with comorbidities was communism. Before those rascals came along, young people were being very thoughtful and generous. It was the old people saying we didn't need to wear a mask until they were in a hospital on a ventilator wearing a mask. See, people forget very easily and quickly. I don't think anybody is a fan of the restrictions. I don't. A lot of people said the socially distancing was ridiculous. I heard one person say it's ridiculous to socially distance. Now, fast forward a little bit, 2 years later. Folks who had a problem with the social distance aren't really saying that they have a problem with social distance anymore now, are they? A lot of people that said, yeah, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to do my thing. They've been inside. Now they're saying, I'm staying inside, I ain't going out there. See, now folks are singing a different tune about certain restrictions and mitigation strategies. 2 years into it. So when you initially look at something, you can be opposed to it. But with time, maybe things that were said were wise. They say time is the best indicator and predictor of whether something withstands the test of time. I know the most popular mitigation strategy with me, shocking, it's not the mask, it's the distance. Please do not come next to me. We're going to have to increase it from 6 to 20 feet. Do not come next to me. Stay in your space. They didn't say don't look at each other, but now I would include that. I would include don't even look at the other person. Masks are optional. In the general public. So they say. Except for people hide everything, including their animus, towards everyone. They don't want to wear a physical mask. But Americans don't like masks. I get that. I understand that. We should have told everybody to wear a sheet. They're more familiar with wearing sheets than masks. What? Somebody's going to say, you didn't have to go there. Yes, I did. Oh, yes, I did. Those who play around with fire will perish by it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That really is true. How many years has it been? Boy, the time goes by quickly when we're having fun, hasn't it? And we've been having fun. It's been a party every night. Hell, it's been parties every night. I'm getting old. I don't go to the parties anymore. You know, I used to be a party animal. Oh, they got photographic video footage of me and the Flying Dutchman in an Indian nightclub. Good times indeed. Good times. We all have to do what's necessary now. See, that's what makes people sad, I guess. Doing what's necessary. People love doing things that are unnecessary. They do. But when it's time to do what's necessary, there's hesitancy, fear. But you can tell when something is necessary. Generally speaking, you can tell when something's necessary. I could tell it was necessary to socially distance and wear a mask. I could tell it was necessary to be vaccinated. I hate needles. Everybody knows that. But I had to do what was necessary. See, people don't want to do what's necessary. And therein lies the problem. Because when people don't want to do what's necessary, you leave leaders no choice but to do what is necessary. A lot of those people in China are leaving the president no choice. And we're looking at it judgmental now. But a lot of our citizens are going to do things that leave leaders in this country no choice as well. They already have, and they will continue to. If you play around with fire, you're going to get burned. Yeah, that's true. That's true. You know, I think December, a lot of people are going to play around with fire. Nobody's told me anything. I just have a gut feeling. And I can't shake the feeling. And my feelings are never wrong. I just feel Americans are going to play around with fire in December. And they're going to get burned. Oh yes, they're going to get burned by it. A lot of Americans are going to play with fire. And they're going to get burned. Those who play with fire shall soon perish by it. The Chinese president told the United States president this during their meeting. A lot of Americans are going to play with fire in December. And they're going to get burned by it. Look, if we do some simple things, I think we should be good. Stay the hell away from each other. I mean that. Seriously. Stay the hell away from each other. Don't look at each other. Try to avoid eye contact. And mind your own fucking business. Now somebody is going to say, I'm good at two of those things, but not the other one. I said all three for a reason. You better get good at all three. Quickly. Let me repeat, for those who are slow. Because we have a lot of slow people. It's okay. I don't care. Repetition is good. I feel that's a good way to learn. Through repetition. I was slow. And then I learned through repetition. Stay the hell away from each other. Don't look at anyone. And mind your own fucking business. That on the surface sounds easy. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I know somebody is saying that. This is easy. I got this. I know Americans. I'm an unofficial, official spokesperson for the Americans. I do not like that, but that is what someone called me. And I couldn't even argue it because it's true. I know Americans. A lot of you can't mind your own fucking business. You can't stay away from anyone. And you've been taught that eye contact is a sign of respect. Well, this season, it's not. This season is a sign of hostility and aggression. So avoid it. Now, these are tips to keep you safe out there. I want to make sure people stay safe. I don't have any natural animus towards anyone. Nobody does. Mother Nature doesn't. A virus doesn't care about anyone. It just wants to live. Look, if I get COVID, if I've had COVID, if I succumb to COVID, you think I'm going to blame COVID? It didn't care. It doesn't discriminate. It affects humans, animals, any living organism on the planet. It doesn't care about how often you go to church or the mosque or the synagogue. Whether you're black, white, purple, green, yellow, orange, gay or straight, it doesn't care. You care about those things. The virus just cares about finding another host. That's it. It's a virus. It's an invisible enemy. Once upon a time, we were at war with the virus. Now we're at war with each other. One can argue that's because of the virus. Although I feel like that's scapegoating. Because hate is a human emotion. That sure, the virus might play on it. But you had to have it there to begin with. You see, that's the trick about this virus. It would have nothing to live inside of if folks were doing what they should be doing. Now, I don't want to be too judgmental, but I do want to say it. If you're plant-based, if you get the virus, you might get really sick, but at least you give your body a fighting chance. At least, at the very least, you give yourself a fighting chance. If you're anything else, you're kind of working in favor of the virus, whether you want to admit it or not. Because the virus is going to host in those other things. But even vegan is not a get out of jail free card. I will admit that. But you stand a fighting chance, is what I'm saying. And folks should admit that as well. But they won't. Because It's America. I hope we don't have to shut down or lock down, but I think we will. You think they'll lock it down? Oh yeah. Yeah, they'll lock this puppy down. Yeah, they'll lock it down. Who's gonna lock it down? We the people will lock it down. You see, not everybody's gonna go along with it. Yeah, there'll be a lot of people that do go along with it. But everybody didn't storm that Capitol building. That was a tiny minority of Americans. Less than 1 million. So that shows you a lot of people are not down with that shit. Now it looks like a lot of people, and it is. But in comparison to our total population, it's not. And those same individuals ran for office in this midterm, right? Insurrectionists, supporters of January 6th, election deniers, they ran. And most lost their elections when their campaign focused on that and that alone. So it shows you that the majority of Americans aren't for that. They're not in support of it. There are a lot of people that are, and there are a lot of people that aren't. Now we talk about protests in China over the lockdown. But protests can happen about anything. There's protests in Iran from women who are tired of the restrictions on their bodies. They're protesting by the millions. Violence is being met towards them. So protests can happen about anything. I really hope nobody is cheering on this. But I know that that's not what people are doing. They're definitely taking a victory lap. But China is a huge country with a huge economy that supplies a lot of people. Suppose this doesn't initially affect us, the lockdown in China. It's going to affect Europe quite a bit. It's going to affect the EU quite a bit. Then that becomes our problem as well, because now Europe is being affected. All of these people who say they're not globalists, but then when inflation is high everywhere, and they still blame inflation on one president, aren't they really globalists? They're not saying the inflation is at 11% and wanting to love on England. They're not saying inflation is at 20% in Russia and wanting to move to Russia. But when inflation at 7%, they're criticizing the United States. Of all the industrialized nations, we have the lowest inflation rate right now. keyword right now. Because those supplies that China has for us, with this lockdown, we might not get them. Like I said, that's probably not going to be out of spite for us. More out of necessity for them. And I can't blame anybody for looking after their own people first. We were the ones that led that talking point, America first. So now when there's real shortages, real crunches, and vital things, countries are going to say, yeah, America, you wanted to be first. So do your thing. You're not globalists. So you don't need our synthetic medications. See, this is what happens when you possibly play around with fire. You might get burned by it. I really hope the medications come back online soon. But if this continues into the winter, they're going to have to lock it down. You know and I know they're going to have to lock it down if there's no medication. Everybody that says no, they won't lock it down, they know. Even they know if there's no medication, they're locking this bitch down. Quick. You can't run this nation without medication. You can't run America without medication. Even the ancients had opium. They were always high. You can't run this nation without medication. And legalizing marijuana, yes, that'll help. But a lot of the people who need the medication won't use marijuana. They're resistant to it. They think it's the devil's lettuce. You think those sickos are going to start smoking marijuana? Hell no. They didn't in the 60s, did they? If they did, maybe that would have changed their attitude. And it was readily available in the 60s. Now, even if they wanted to start smoking marijuana, it's expensive too. It's costly. Inflation has hit the joint too. And people might not even have the money for it. They're going to have to lock this bitch down without medication. I'm sorry to break that news to you all. They're not going to want to say it to you. But they're going to have to do it. You have to do what's necessary. And they don't even know if they're going to be able to make it in a lockdown. How long do you think the second lockdown will last? Who knows? As long as it needs to, until they can find some way to fight this shit. The vaccine is effective, but you got a couple of issues with the vaccine. One, they're not long-term vaccines. Meaning you constantly need to keep getting boosted. And people don't want to keep getting boosted. Understandable. Who wants to keep getting poked constantly? No one. So it's not appealing. It's very invasive. The second thing is there's a lot of people that have conspiracies around the vaccine that will never take it, that will get sick with the virus, that will pretend that they're not sick and spread the virus, will do crazy things because they contracted the virus. You're always going to have those people. So there's a lot of issues with the vaccine, and we're not even talking about the side effects yet. The anti-vaxxers love talking about the side effects of the vaccine. And I think that's fake. But what about the side effects of not taking the vaccine? They never want to talk about that. I think that's unfair. You have to talk about both. I think the second lockdown would be more difficult than the first. Yes. Yes, the second one would be more difficult than the first. Look at what's happening in China. Largest protest since Tiananmen Square. There's a fatigue there in China. But we never did a lockdown. We did a shutdown. There wouldn't be a fatigue here. There would just be people saying that this is it. They're coming for us. Paranoia. There would be mass paranoia. And that would lead to a lot of violence. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of violence. Is the lockdown necessary? How would you know if it's necessary? Is it better to prevent than to wait and react? See, we don't practice prevention in America. So you get questions like this. Prevention is better than reaction. So what you see in certain countries is prevention instead of reaction. You can do it both ways. But one way is going to be more difficult than the other. We're seeing that already. And we're going to see more of it. Will the lockdown cause more issues than it solves? What issues did the shutdown cause? See, we gotta really think hard here. What issues did the shutdown cause? It caused a lot of issues. What issues did the shutdown prevent? It prevented a lot of issues. So now when you do something like this, you do a comparison. Did doing X, was that more cost beneficial than doing Y? Had we done Y and not X, which would have been better? A cost analysis. And it's pretty clear that if you hadn't shut down, the cost analysis would have been more and a detriment to this country. You know, think about it like this. When they shut down everything, and people who were working, the essential workers, because there were still a lot of things that were open, they tried to hang on. A lot of people tried to hang on. When they were open, were people really coming? Not really. So they went to all delivery, right? They said, we'll just be pick up and carry out. Now here's where we made a mistake. And I saw it when it was happening. And I wanted to say something. But I was fucking preoccupied with dealing with your stupidity. So I could have been more helpful with my insight, I agree. But I was dealing with a lunatic who by all intents and purposes was trying to have me assassinated. So I had that on my plate. Anyway, I saw this and I wanted to say something about it. When they went to pick up and carry out, a lot of the establishments did it backwards. They let go of all of their young employees. You remember this. And it was a lot of the elderly people who stayed behind. They said, we know how to run the kitchen. We know how to run this shit. But then when everything switched over to Uber, DoorDash, delivery, they didn't know how to work those machines now, did they? So they should have kept the young kids on staff. And the elderly people should have stayed at home. Because a lot of the problem was the elderly people didn't know how to work the technology. We're talking about in the beginning. We're not talking about now. Stay focused. Some of you can't stay focused. That's another problem. I think that's a side effect of the virus too. It really is. So they should have stayed home, the elderly people, and kept those young people. Because they would have known how to work the technology. So a lot of people were ordering shit and it was taking forever. And they said, I'm not going to order at that place anymore. And those places shut down and went out of business. In large part due to that. It was a shift in technology and people couldn't keep up. I saw that. I wanted to say something. But America, you had a lunatic who was telling the citizenry to ingest bleach. Ingest a horse dewormer. Shoot the sun into people's bodies. I had to do everything I could to get that son of a bitch the hell up out of the White House. So you didn't make it easy with a lunatic as your leader during a pandemic. I think a lot of things would have been better have we had a responsible person as our leader. I really do. But that wasn't the case. And we can't cry about spilled milk, if you know what I mean. What do you think the reaction will be to a lockdown? What was the reaction to the shutdown? Wasn't that really bad? Horrible? Ridiculous? Juvenile? Trifling? The lockdown will be all of that times 10. Will America survive a lockdown? Now, we're going to do a separate video on that question. Will America survive a lockdown? I have a lot of thoughts about that. And you know, I can't say one way or the other. I can't say definitively yes, and I can't say definitively no. Because it's a country, and countries are hard to collapse. So it could survive a lockdown. But based off of the evidence of the shutdown, I think it would be difficult. Is it the fact that they're being told to do it as opposed to coming to the determination that they need to do it? Do you think Americans would come to any type of reasonable determination about needing to do something responsible? I know the person that asked that question is not an American. You can't be. Reasonable in the American lexicon does not exist. No, they would never come to a determination that they need to do something that makes sense. See, you haven't lived in America. That's why you can ask that question. I'm a product of this madness. When you come from a country where you always think you're right, everything you do is good, and everybody else is stupid and inferior to you, do you think they would do what's reasonable when you have thoughts like this ingrained in your brain? No. No, Americans don't do what's reasonable. So we would never decide to lock down ourselves, no. There's been 600 mass shootings. What have the reasonable people decided to do about that? Nothing, okay? No, we don't do reason. That's something we don't comprehend as a society in America. What should be done if there is a lockdown? Everybody is different. You can't give advice like that because everybody's situation is different. Some people, if there's a lockdown, they're just not going to do it. A lot of people will be of that mindset. If they announce a lockdown, they're going to say, I'm not going to do it. They're going to have to force me to do it. That's where it's going to get messy with those type of people. Oh, I already know that's where it's going to get really messy. Because not only are they not going to sit down, they're going to make trouble. Oh yeah, they're going to make a lot of trouble. So that's where you have to use force. I'm sorry to say it, but you're going to have to use force with those type of individuals. The lockdown will be unnecessary because Americans will do the right thing. Do you want me to pray about that? The lockdown will be unnecessary because Americans will do the right thing. That sounds like something you should pray about. You can do an affirmation if you don't believe in prayer. But again, we're going back to this thing that's not realistic. Americans doing the right thing is not realistic. Just like Americans being reasonable is not realistic. The people writing this, you're not from this country. You don't know Americans. Do the right thing? Since when? Since never. You think all of a sudden they're going to do the right thing? Okay, wait on it. No, I don't believe they'll do the right thing. Look, if I was talking about somewhat reasonable people, perhaps. But we're talking about the most illogical people that ever roamed the planet. Look, Americans would cut off their nose in spite of their face. Real talk, I'm telling you this. We're not talking about reasonable people here. A reasonable person would have said, I don't know whether you're vaccinated or unvaccinated. I don't know whether you have the virus or don't. But I'm going to wear a mask. Because I'm a thoughtful, caring person. That's what a reasonable person would have said. What did Americans do when they were outside? Didn't they clown about that shit? Okay. Come on. What are we talking about? What are we doing here? Give me some tough shit. Will a lot of countries lock down? Yes. Yes. Most countries will lock down again. Yes. Is the virus a figment of our imagination? Should I make a video about that? Is it a figment of our imagination? You know, that's not a bad question to ask. I know where you're going with that. In terms of the population, the people who've contracted the virus is very small in comparison. That kind of shit. I know where they're going. And are we overreacting? I'm guessing that's where you're going with this. The problem with that thinking is this. People move about freely. Animals move about freely. So if you have a virus that's highly contagious and it spreads easily, eventually people are going to come in contact with a number of people and the virus spreads. So one of the reasons why there was low transmission in the initial wave was because of the mitigation strategies. The things people criticized kept the transmission low in comparison to the total population. But had there not been any mitigation standards, it would have spread rapidly and a lot more people would have contracted it. So oddly enough, the thing that people complain about, the mitigation strategies, actually had a positive effect on the transmission rate. Hence why you needed the mitigation strategies. But nobody wants to talk about that. Can COVID be defeated? Can it be defeated? That's a video, or 2, or 3, or 4, or 5, or 6, or 7. Can this virus be defeated? Yes and no. It can definitely be better managed. Let me put it that way. Look at who's managing it well and what are they doing. Look at who's managing it unwell and what are they doing. And then do a case study of what works and what doesn't work globally. And take the best of what works and apply it everywhere. And the worst of what's not working, toss it everywhere. That's how you can manage something. Now, defeating it is going to be difficult because it's a living thing. And it needs a host, an embryo, to exist. And we know this thing can hop and mutate quickly, rapidly. So defeating it would be difficult. Managing it can be done. Defeating it, I'm going to have to talk about that. You know, this is the first time this has ever been on our planet. It's a novel virus. Novel meaning the first of its kind. And I had a theory at the very beginning that this wasn't from our planet. That this is from somewhere else. And it came here. That was my initial theory. And I was doing a deep investigation. And I stopped doing the investigation. It's a long story, but to make a long story short, I got a feeling that I should stop doing that investigation. And usually I do investigations. I love them. But I said, this investigation may lead to something I don't want to know about. Something I don't want to know about. And if I don't want to know about it, you really shouldn't want to know about it. But it's possible that this isn't from our planet, COVID. That it's from something or somewhere else. It's possible. We can manage it better than what we're doing. But we have to be willing to do what's necessary. And see, that I don't think people are willing to do what's necessary. That's the problem. The necessary part. People are not willing to do it. They want to argue and debate and protest and commit violence. Because all of that summarizes to me that they don't want to do what's necessary. And when you have a lot of people that don't want to do what's necessary, it doesn't mean that the thing that you have to do is any less necessary. It just makes it all the more difficult. I really feel for what the president of China is going through. I really do. I would imagine he's going to soon feel sympathy for what we're going to be going through again. I really do. I don't think anybody wishes this on anyone. This is not a good situation. There's no magic bullet or cure for this. COVID. What do you think the origins of COVID are? See, I don't like getting into the conspiracy theories. And a lot of that has to do with conspiracy theories. Because the truth is, no one knows. No one knows the origins of it. Again, it goes back to the investigation. I would have had to completed the investigation. And I stopped it. I said, I really don't want to know. And it's really rare to say you don't want to know something. Because they say curiosity. Everybody's curious. But you all remember they said curiosity killed the cat. Now a cat has 9 lives. Nimble and agile. Brilliant. Sneaky. Feisty. And curiosity killed the cat. If curiosity can kill a cat, it can definitely kill an owl. So I said no. Some things are even above us. I said no, I don't want to know. It could be from off planet. Possibly. I don't know. That's possible. It could be something in the environment. An animal could have contracted something, and a human consumed that animal. And then they went and infected others. Somebody said, what about a lab leak? Possibly. Lab accidents happen. I also threw this one out there. Do you all remember? Because they were saying that it was a bat, right? It came from a bat in a cave. Originally, they said it was from a bat. Now, I know people that know people that know people. Not directly, but indirectly. And I said, what if it wasn't a bat? But what if it looked like a bat? You know there's things that look like bats that aren't bats, right? They said, oh shit. They knew what I was talking about. Now the elders and the indigenous said, never touch those things. They told us, don't touch it. Because they never touched it. They saw him and they said, don't touch them. And we never touched it. But you know how people are. They forget things. They forget what the elders used to say. And I'm not saying it happened, but somebody could have touched it. And if you touch one of those things, you know what they do. Now, I've never crossed myself, but if you touch one of those things, I would cross myself. And then I would brace myself because I know what's about to happen. The elders must have known because they always told us, don't touch it. And I never saw an elder ever touch it. But some of them must have known someone that did touch it. Because where would they tell us not to touch it from? Had it not been done? A lot of people said no, they don't think it's that. I said, yeah. 99.999% chance it's not that. But it could be. And if it's that, oh baby. Oh baby boy. You ain't seen nothing yet if it's that. I'm hoping it's not. If you're a religious person, please pray it's not that. Put in a prayer for me too. I don't know how they got them to be like that, but they did. And we were always told, don't touch it. I don't think it's that, but it's a possibility. So we don't know. And I don't think I want to know the origins. I don't think I do. No. Knowing the origins at this point is not going to help us anyway. I mean, how does that help us, knowing the origins? The Republicans say they want to investigate. Go for it. But there's no way they're going to come to a definitive conclusion as to what it is. And you know why I say that? It's because the scientific community has sent their greatest and smartest minds to investigate. Every military organization on the planet has sent their brightest minds to investigate. And all of them have come back inconclusive. So what makes you think a bunch of drunk Republicans in the House, storing bump stocks of cocaine, are going to find a conclusive answer when the most brilliant people on the planet have not? They're not scientists. They don't even know how to read a human bone chart, let alone a virus genome. What are we doing here? So no, that's going to be a joke. They're not going to really investigate shit. And we're not going to know the origins. Because I don't think anybody knows. If anybody knew, they would have said it by now. And I'm not talking about conspiracy theories. Because there's 1,000,001 COVID conspiracy theories. Which one are you picking as true? The one you like the most? Is that how we do it? This is true because I like this one. It sounds like it's plausible. That's how we do things? Okay, maybe that's how you do things. I don't do things that way. A lot of people are doing things really stupid nowadays. If it sounds believable, it's believable. Okay, I'm going to need some proof about that. You know, people would say the world is flat. And they have long YouTube videos about it. It sounds believable to a lot of people, and they believe it too. The rest of us, we know the world is not flat. I hope we do. So that's my counterpoint to all of these conspiracy theories. They're just that. They're conspiracy theories. I told you, I have a number of theories too. There's no way I can prove it. There's no way you're going to find the origins of COVID. Everyone would have to do a thorough investigation again. It can't just be Americans doing an investigation. It'd have to be everyone. They still don't even know who the first patient was that contracted it. Some people believe it was in China, but I'm not so sure about that. Look, they lied about when they had the first case here in this country. They said the first case was out of Washington. Do you remember? Here in Seattle. But there were many cases before this case in Seattle. It has spread all in California, long before it got to Washington. But that's when they reported it to you. And prior to that, We were hearing stories of this happening in China in October, November, and December. I started hearing about a lockdown in October of 2019. We traveled, we moved. We were investigating then. Yes, we started investigating as soon as we heard it. I was talking to a lot of people, but I didn't know the full magnitude and scale yet. We were hearing rumors, people were saying things about their family getting sick. I was inquiring what type of sickness, what are they experiencing? They would tell me fevers, loss of taste. They said this is unlike anything we've ever experienced before. I said quarantine these individuals. Don't go around it. We don't know if it's highly contagious yet. And they did it. They quarantined. And people got infected that were around the original individuals. They became sick. And then they had gone around other people. It has spread out of control. They knew it had spread pretty far in America when they announced 15 days to slow the spread. They knew. They had known by then. They said they didn't want to alarm the citizenry and get us to panic. But people were already panicking, weren't they? They were already alarmed. What should the people do? The people should isolate themselves. Look, whatever this thing is, it likes a lot of people. So if we're isolated, it's going to have to get us one by one by one by one by one. It's going to take a long time to do that. But if we're all congregated together, it can get a lot of us. The indigenous First Nation people said there would come a time when we would have to isolate on the land. I think this is it. We're going to have to isolate. We're going to fight this. We're going to fight this. The virus. We got to remember this is the virus we're fighting. This is the virus. A lot of people are going to forget that it's the virus. They're going to fight one another, but it's the virus. And the longer we persist against the fight against the virus, we stand a chance of victory. I really do think the persistence is victory in this. We can have victory, but we can't declare it, just say it and it's done. It has to be a true victory. China is doing what's necessary to gain victory over the virus, in my opinion. In my opinion, China is doing what's necessary to gain victory over the virus. Yes, this is true. And it's costing them a price, a severe price. Yes, this is true. But it's going to cost us a severe price too, not to do what's necessary. This is also true. It's one of those things where either way you slice it, there's no pretty picture. It's going to cost us severely not to do what's necessary. It already has, and it's going to continue. Most likely get far worse. It's going to cost us severe, yes. Can it cost us the entire country? Yes. Yes. Not doing what's necessary with COVID can cost the end of this republic, yes. China is aware of that. They don't want their republic to end. America hasn't come to that realization yet. This could end the American Republic, yes. COVID, yes. People don't understand what this is. But yes, this can end the American Empire, yes. Okay. How many mutations or viruses is it? Nobody knows that question. It's a lot. It's a lot. And each strain is different. Somebody will say, oh, I had mild COVID. Maybe. Although I don't know what mild COVID is. There's nothing mild about COVID. But maybe you had a strain that you got over pretty quickly. That's one strain. The thing about COVID is you never know what type of strain you're going to catch. So maybe you'll catch Omicron, and it's not that bad if you're vaccinated. But if you're unvaccinated, it could be very detrimental to you. Maybe you'll catch Alpha or Beta. Maybe you'll catch B4 or B5. Who knows? But it really depends on your system, your unique system. Nobody knows how they're going to handle COVID. Nobody. Has anyone tried to kill the virus? Yeah, I think they have. I think they've tried. That probably was the original goal, to kill the virus. Well, let me tell you why that probably didn't work. Maybe they did, or maybe they didn't find the original patient. Patient 0. Patient 0 was probably dead when they found the person. They had probably succumbed to the virus. Now, if the people that found the first patient, patient 0, weren't in hazmat, fully covered up, and they just found a dead body and touched it, they most definitely contracted the virus. And let me put a twist to it. Some people might have had that virus that have contracted it, and they might have been asymptomatic and not known that they were spreading, they were carriers, and infected a whole lot of other people without even knowing they were sick. Remember, this was before masks. Can you now kill the virus? Oh, okay. Better question. Can you kill the virus now? No. See, you're thinking of it as a singular virus. It's not singular. It's plural. You would have to kill every mutation of COVID. And there's so many different mutations of it that it's impossible to kill the virus. No, you can't kill the virus now. Has anyone ever healed from COVID? I don't know of anyone that heals from COVID, no. People get better, yes. Do they heal from COVID? No. No. Is there a cure to COVID? We don't know. Hopefully, yes, maybe one day, hopefully. But at this time, no. There's no cure. Does COVID make you insane? COVID does a lot of things to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways. There was an interesting study that said that it was linked to possibly insanity at the very beginning. Yes. It's highly possible, yes. Is COVID bad to catch if you're unvaccinated? I don't know. Do you want to catch something and not have any protection? I don't know. It could be bad. It could be not so bad. Again, that variable is dependent on each individual. I didn't like how people were telling people to not take the vaccine. I thought that was crazy. And then their justification was, well, because I'm in good health. But you know everyone you're talking to isn't in good health. Like, does that make any sense? People were talking like they were representatives of everyone on the planet. Oh, you shouldn't take the vaccine. Knowing that there were people that really should have taken that vaccine. Oh yeah, there were people that were convinced by people on the internet not to do something they knew they should have done. And then when they got to the hospital, and the nurses told them it's nothing we can do for you, they were begging for the vaccination. And the nurses said it's not a cure, it's too late. So yeah, I think the internet was bullshit for that. And I know they tried to stop the spread of disinformation, but still, it was bullshit. Those people who did that, yeah, they have a lot of blood on their hands. Let's just say that. What about the people who took the vaccine and they had severe side effects and passed away from it? There's not any medication that I can think of that doesn't have side effects. Not one. You tell me a medication that doesn't have side effects. I want to try that medication. Because it's not a medication, is it, if it doesn't have side effects? The whole intended point of a medication is for you to take it. With the percentage of the chance of you taking it being that you get better, as opposed to getting ill and sicker. That's the whole point of medication. So when people say, oh, the vaccine has side effects, people reacted adversely to it. If you're giving millions upon millions of people a vaccine, of course you're going to have side effects. And it's kind of disingenuous what they do, the anti-vaxxers. They say people have died of the vaccine. Well, people have died of taking Tylenol too. Remember, in this country, people were taking Tylenol and they were dying. And they had to take it off the shelves. So there's not a medication that I can think of that people don't die of. People die of drinking alcohol. Lots of people have died of alcohol poisoning. Alcohol-related deaths. You still sell it in every corner convenience store, right? Okay. So we have to be able to discern things like that. When people try to use those kind of deceptive practices to dissuade us from doing things that we know are necessary. Okay, the last one. What do you think about children being vaccinated? Are the children going around other children? Are they coming into contact with adults? If they live by themselves, then they probably don't need a vaccination. If their parents are isolating, they probably don't need a vaccination. But a lot of people who are even isolating are still contracting. So if you want to spread the virus to your children and they're not vaccinated, that's a chance that each individual parent or parental guardian will have to make. And children already receive vaccinations for so many things. See, again, here goes the paranoia and conspiracy. The general takeaway I wanted you all to get from this is those who play with fire will perish by it. That's serious. That's deep. Let's not play around with fire. I really think in December a lot of people are going to play around with this fire. And they're going to get burned by it. They're definitely going to get burned. Can the nation get burned? Oh, yes, yeah. A nation can burn too. They say Nero fiddled and played as Rome burned, right? So nations can burn too, yeah. You know, I saw a video. At first, I didn't understand it. There was a Chinese businessman. He was going from building to building, setting the buildings on fire. He was doing it on purpose. In one of the main cities, he was burning buildings. At first, everybody thought he was crazy. What's he doing? Burning buildings. And they talked to him in Mandarin. It took me a long time to get the translation. It takes a while to get this shit. And they had to restrain him. When they got him into the interrogation room and asked him, why were you setting those buildings on fire? He said something interesting. He said they were going to burn anyway. I wanted to get my money. The inspector didn't understand. He said, wait a minute, what are you talking about? They were going to burn anyway. You burned them. He said, yeah, I know, but they were going to burn anyway. I wanted to get my money first. And at first I didn't understand it. But now I do. He knew the buildings were going to burn. He was right. They were. couple of months later, some youth vandals came and started burning the buildings. They went back to him. They said, how did you know this was going to happen? You said that. How did you know? And he said, any fool could have known. Any fool could have known. Now the investigator said, no, you paid these young people to burn those buildings for you, didn't you? So they pulled all the young people in that were burning those buildings. They said, you know this man, don't you? Said, never met this fool in our life. All of them, one by one. Say, we've never met him. They say, you're lying. They went to the old man. They said, you know these kids, don't you? He said, I've never met them before in my life. They said, you're lying. You gotta know them. They went back and did a trace. That old man never met those kids before in his life. He didn't know them. And they didn't know him. He said, I wanted to get my money. So the investigator remembered. He said, wait a minute. You said you burned those buildings on purpose, right? He said, yes. He said, but you also said you wanted to get your money. What did you mean by that? We should have originally asked you that. We just let it go. What did you mean by that? He started chuckling. He started chuckling. They said, what's funny? He said, all of those buildings that I burnt were mine. You listen to me. Americans, you listen. He said, all of those buildings I burnt were mine. He said, why would you burn your own building? He said, because I knew they were going to burn. And I wanted to get my money. Insurance. Insurance. He had insurance on the building. He knew people were going to vandalize and burn it. He wanted to get his money. You all stay safe out there this December. This is probably the last December for all of us together. Try to stay away from each other. And do what's necessary if they come for you. I want this to stay up to chronicleize the end of all of this. But I hope we do what we know is necessary. We don't have much time left. We don't have very much time left at all. I want to wish the People's Republic of China the best. Look, if they can maybe mitigate this thing, then we can learn from them. I'm open to getting help from anyone. We all should be. We're going to have to set aside our differences in order to beat this virus. But people won't do that in America. I already know that. So we're going to have to do what's necessary. All of us now. Good luck out there to everyone. And I appreciate the people who were responsible. I want to say that. I appreciate what you did. It was just so many damn irresponsible people. So many. But there were a lot of you who were responsible. And if by some quirk we somehow get through this, I hope a lot of you responsible people make it. I really do. I'm being serious. I really do. But you damn fucking irresponsible people. You're the worst. You don't take anything serious. And if there was nothing else ever to take serious, I would have taken COVID serious. Ooh, if somebody is telling you, hey, we're shutting down globally, you gotta wear a mask and try to socially distance. Even if I was this deep conspiracy theorist, I would still say, hey, I don't think everybody is bullshitting. Have you ever seen everybody on the entire planet bullshit? For some of you dumb conspiracy theorists. Oh, I could have seen if the Americans were just saying it and nobody else. I could have seen if Asia was saying it and nobody else. I could have seen if Europe was saying it and nobody else. But when everybody is saying it, and you're sitting there saying it's a globalist plot, you really think those world leaders knew anything about this? I don't think they did. Looks like it caught them by surprise too. Didn't some of them get sick and pass away? Do as well. I think this might be our last month together. I want to wish you all the best. We have a chance of winning. I'm not going to say we're going to lose. But we have to do what's necessary. And persistence is victory. We might win, we might lose. I don't know. But it's not looking so good, if I'm being honest. It's not looking so good at all.